Hello. I wanted to give you a quick glimpse of the finishing touches of the podcast. Right now, what I'm getting ready to do is read the introduction for this episode for Robert Harrion, who is a cancer survivor. And it's going to actually be a two-part episode because we had such a long talk and Robert had so much to share. You know, he had a surgery for cancer that was throughout his abdominal cavity. And that alone was a major surgery. He had a hard time finding a surgeon to even perform that surgery, and they gave him a less than 30% chance of living. Well, he had some complications, and they had to go back in there 2 more times. So he had 3 surgeries in 2 weeks, and he was just completely devastated. His body was just destroyed. And it took him almost 2 years just to get back to a somewhat normal life. And you know, when someone goes through those kind of experiences, they have things to share with the rest of us that we can't even begin to understand. When you live with death like that for that long, I'm sure it gives you a great perspective on life, and it did, and he had a lot to share. So I just wanted to give you a quick glimpse. I'm going to record the introduction, and what you're probably going to see is, even though it's right here in front of me, as you see, here's the script that I wrote, I will probably screw up 3 or 4 times. It's right there, and I can't read it right. So for some reason, when I do this, I just have a hard time. It's a mental block I've developed, perhaps. But here we go. So what I do right now, I am recording on Audacity. I am going to look for another software to record and edit with. Audacity is a great one to start with because it's free. It's an open source software. But I'm beginning to, as I get better and better at this and do it more and more, I'm beginning to discover some of its limitations. So I need to find a better editing and recording software. Now, I did find one. It's called Square One, but it's pretty complicated. So it's a very high learning curve. So I'm starting slowly. I'm going to stick with Audacity until I get that down better. But here we go. Let's make sure that we have the right mics going here. I'll turn down the recording level a little bit so it's not too hot. And we shall begin. Now, whenever you record anything, especially sound, you want to give yourself a little bit of a break because there's going to be background noise. For example, the air conditioning is going on right now. There's always something you have to eliminate. So I'm going to be quiet for a few seconds, and then here we go. I want to take a moment to thank our first Patreons for Patreon. Say, I already screwed up. First sentence, I screwed up. I don't know how actors can remember lines. I really don't. How do they remember lines? I can't read my own lines, and I wrote it. That's crazy. So let's start again. Get a little drink of water. I want to take a moment to thank our first patrons from Patreon. They are Melissa Ann Michael, Lisa Gaucho, June Gaucho, Taylor and Eric from Financial Potion, and Greg Berdulis. Thank you for being the first to join our Patreon page and our community. I am grateful. Our guest for this episode is Robert Harrion. Robert is a survivor of a rare form of cancer. Robert had pockets of cancer spread throughout his abdominal cavity. Robert had pockets of cancer spread throughout his abdominal cavity. He was given less than a 30% chance of survival, and he had a difficult time finding a doctor who would even perform the surgery. And Robert needed this surgery if he had any chance of survival. His first surgery was the equivalent of having 5 surgeries done at once. It was a 12-hour procedure. Now, this alone would be a monumental obstacle to overcome and heal from, but there were complications. Robert had to have 2 more surgeries within 2 weeks. So he had 3 major surgeries. So he had 3 major surgeries within 14 days, which is rare, and this put his chance of survival at less than 10%. Well, Robert's still here to share the wisdom he gained from his hero's journey. This is a 2-part interview. In part 1, we discuss Robert's This is a 2-part interview. In part 1, we discuss Robert's background and where his journey began. We then discuss his surgeries and how deep the abyss got for him. It is a testament to the will to survive and overcome great odds. This is part 1 of the hero's journey of Robert Harrion. Enjoy. You see, I can't even get through 1. I can't get through 1. Anyway, I'll let you go. I'll go back to trying to get this done in 1 take. You can't edit it, but you want to save yourself time. I do enough editing. Thank you for watching.